Hello, future Band 9 achievers. Welcome to WordCraft IELTS. If you are aiming for a high score in your IELTS exam, you know that listening isn't just about hearing the words. It's about focus, anticipation, and vocabulary. Today, we are going to simulate a full IELTS listening test to see exactly where you stand. Grab your pen and paper or open a fresh document. Remember, you only hear the audio once, just like in the real exam. Take a deep breath, clear your mind, and let's get started. This is the WordCraft Academy IELTS Listening Practice Test. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have a chance to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. At the end of the test, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet. Now, turn to Part 1. You will hear a telephone conversation between a customer and a restoration specialist regarding a damaged piece of furniture. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning, Carruthers & Co. Restoration Archives. Eleanor Hemsley speaking. How might I assist you today?
Oh, hello, yes. I was given your number by a curator at the local museum. I'm hoping you can help me. I have a rather delicate situation involving a writing bureau, late 19th century, I believe, that has suffered some significant water damage during the recent storms.
I see. We are currently operating with a rather substantial backlog, I'm afraid. However, for 19th century pieces, we do try to prioritize assessments if the structural integrity is compromised. Is the damage merely cosmetic, or has the wood warped?
Well, that's the tricky part. To the naked eye, the mahogany veneer looks simply stained, discolored really, but the drawer mechanisms have seized up completely. I suspect the internal frame has swollen. I wouldn't describe it as warped visibly from the outside, but functionally it is certainly compromised.
Understood. We'd classify that as internal structural grade 2.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Now, before we proceed to booking a consultation, I must take down some preliminary details for our insurance protocols. Can I have your full name, please?
It's Arthur Pendleton. That's Pendleton.
Thank you, Mr. Pendleton. And the address where the item is currently housed, we need to determine if it falls within our collection radius.
Right, it's actually in storage at the moment, not at my home. It's at the older facility near the docks. The address is Unit 4, Braithwaite Industrial Estate.
Braithwaite, is that spelt with an I or a Y?
It's Braithwaite, and the postcode is EX4 9JL.
EX4 9JL. Noted. That is just within our zone, though there would be a surcharge for collection due to the distance from the city centre. Now, regarding the timeline, as I mentioned, we are busy. We usually book assessments 3 weeks in advance. However, if you are willing to bring the item to us yourself, we could potentially squeeze you in this coming Friday.
Ah, Friday. I'm afraid that's impossible. I'm away on business until the weekend. I was hoping for something early next week, perhaps Monday or Tuesday.
Let me check the ledger. Monday is entirely committed to a museum contract. Tuesday afternoon... No, wait. We have a cancellation on Wednesday morning, the 24th. Would 10:30 a.m. suit you?
Wednesday the 24th. Let me check. I have a dentist appointment at 9, but that should be finished by 10. Yes, 10:30 on Wednesday works perfectly.
Excellent. Now, regarding the fee structure, it is slightly complex, so please bear with me. There is a standard non-refundable consultation fee of £45. However, should you choose to proceed with the restoration work after our quote, that £45 is deducted from the final labour cost.
I see. And if I decide the quote is too high and don't go ahead?
Then the £45 covers our time for the assessment report. Additionally, because the item is in storage, if you require us to collect it, which I recommend given the seized drawers you mentioned, there is a transport fee. Usually that's £20, but because you are at the industrial estate, it's a flat rate of £35.
Right, so regardless of whether I fixed it or not, I'm looking at paying the consultation plus the transport up front.
Precisely. So that would be a total of £80 due upon booking to secure the slot.
80? I thought you said 45 and 35.
Yes, £45 for the consultation and £35 for the transport.
Ah, yes, of course. My maths is terrible today. That sounds fair.
One final detail regarding the contact number. Is the number you are calling from the best one to reach you on the day of collection?
Actually, no. The signal in the storage unit is dreadful. Please use my landline for the confirmation. It's 01632 884 952.
01632 884 952.
Correct. And if I don't pick up, please don't leave a voicemail. The machine is broken. Just send a text to my mobile and I'll call back.
Understood. No voicemail. Well, Mr. Pendleton, I have all I need. I will send the invoice link to your email shortly.
Thank you, Miss Hemsley. You've been very helpful.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to part 2. You will hear a coordinator giving an update to visitors at an innovation exhibition regarding changes to the schedule and zones. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 20.
Attention, please. If I could have your attention near the information kiosk. My name is Marcus, the floor coordinator. Before you proceed to the pavilions, please discard the blue itinerary you were handed at the gate. Due to a structural safety audit this morning and some unforeseen equipment failures, that schedule is now effectively obsolete. I need you to mentally update the locations and entry protocols for the following 5 zones. I won't be repeating this, so please take notes. First, regarding the solar kinetics display, we had intended to house this in the east wing to utilize the morning light. However, the glare proved too intense for the adjacent glass exhibits. Consequently, while the static models remain there, the active demonstration, which is what you all want to see, has been shunted to the outdoor atrium. You'll find it past the cafeteria. A critical safety note here: due to the concentrated beams, standard eyewear is insufficient. You will be denied entry to the enclosure unless you are wearing polarized sunglasses. If you don't have them, you can purchase a pair at the kiosk, but you cannot enter without them. Secondly, the hydro loop simulation. This is the water purification system located in the Blue Hall. We've had a slight issue with the pressure valves. It is safe, but the noise level is currently exceeding 90 decibels. Therefore, while we initially planned this as a family-friendly educational walkthrough, we have revised the access policy. It is now strictly restricted to visitors aged 16 and over. I apologize to the school groups, but the liability insurance won't cover younger children in that noise environment today. Thirdly, the biofabrication lab. This is where we are growing bricks from mycelium. You'll be looking for this in the basement vaults. We tried to set it up on the mezzanine, but the humidity control failed, so we've had to move it underground to maintain the spore integrity. Now, observing the growth cycle is included in your ticket, but if you intend to participate in the molding workshop to take a sample home, there is a material levy. It's not the £10 listed in the brochure. We've subsidized it down to £5, but that must be paid via card, not cash, at the lab entrance. Fourth, the urban mobility track, the electric unicycles. This has been moved to the grand arena to allow for a wider turning radius. Listen closely. Usually, a waiver signature is enough to test ride. However, the local council has classified these prototypes as Class 3 vehicles this morning. This means showing us your student ID or a passport is no longer legally adequate. You must produce a current driving license. If you only have a photo of it on your phone, that will depend on the instructor's discretion, but physical cards are preferred. Finally, the circular economy debate. This is the keynote event. Please note, this has been merged with the investor panel. It will take place in the auditorium, not the seminar room. It kicks off at 11:30 a.m. precisely. Doors will lock at 11:35, and a strict request from the patent lawyers present. Unlike the other zones where we encourage social media sharing, photography is strictly prohibited. Any attendees seen raising a camera will be escorted out immediately. Right, those are the updates. Good luck navigating the crowds.
That is the end of part 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 3. You will hear a discussion between two psychology students and their professor about a dissertation proposal on the topic of digital amnesia. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Right, let's settle down. I've reviewed the preliminary drafts for your joint dissertation on digital amnesia. I have to be blunt, the premise is currently too pedestrian. You're arguing that search engines make us forget facts. That's been covered since 2011. I need a more sophisticated angle for the 2026 cycle. Leo, start with your revised hypothesis.
Well, Professor, I was thinking we shift the focus from forgetting facts to source confusion. My argument is that AI summaries create a knowledge mirage. People feel they know a subject deeply because they read a high-quality synthesis, but they actually lack the neural pathways to retain it. It's not that they forget, it's that the memory was never encoded in the hippocampus to begin with.
It's a bold claim, Leo. You're describing a total biological failure of encoding. However, I suspect your research partner might disagree.
I have to jump in there, Leo. I think you're conflating encoding failure with retrieval dependency. The literature suggests the memory is encoded, but it's tagged with a digital location rather than the content itself. We remember where to find the answer, not the answer itself. That's transactive memory, not a failure of encoding.
An adaptive strategy. Interesting. But simply calling it adaptive ignores the long-term consequences on critical thinking. If we lose the internal scaffold of facts, can we still synthesize new ideas?
That's exactly what I want to test. I propose we replicate the museum walk study, but with a modification. We have Group A use an AI guide that interprets the art for them, and Group B use a traditional paper guidebook.
But didn't the Cambridge study already prove that the AI group would recall less?
Actually, the Cambridge study was flawed. They didn't control for engagement time. The AI group walked faster. If we force both groups to spend equal time, I suspect the AI group might actually recall more narrative details, but fewer visual details.
So, a trade-off. Narrative retention versus visual retention. I can get behind that. But the methodology needs tightening. How will you control for the novelty effect? Group A might just be distracted by the interface itself.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
We could use a familiarization phase. Give them the devices a week prior. Let them use it for mundane tasks so the tech becomes invisible by the time of the experiment.
A week is insufficient. It takes 21 days to normalize a habit, but we don't have the budget for a month-long longitudinal study.
What if we recruit participants who already use this specific app daily? There's a user base of heavy adopters on campus.
That introduces selection bias. Heavy users might already have different cognitive traits. No, stick to a random sample, but give them a 45-minute heavy usage tutorial immediately before the trial. It's not perfect, but it suppresses the novelty spike enough.
45 minutes? That will push the experiment duration over 2 hours. We'll need to pay the participants more.
Our grant covers up to £20 per head. If that's not enough to keep them for 2 hours, you'll have to cut the post-interview short.
I'd rather cut the interview than the sample size. Let's swap the oral interview for a written questionnaire. It's faster to administer and easier to code the data later.
I disagree. The nuance of how they felt about the memory loss will be lost in a questionnaire. We need the qualitative data.
Leo, this is a quantitative psychology module, not anthropology. A Likert-scale survey is robust enough and fits the time constraints. We go with the questionnaire.
That is the end of part 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turn to part 4. you will hear a university lecture about the chemical preservation of a historic Swedish warship. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon. Today we are continuing our module on conservation chemistry by looking at one of the most famous and problematic case studies in maritime archaeology, the 17th century Swedish warship, the Vasa. Now, most of you know the basic history. The ship sank in Stockholm Harbor in 1628 and remained submerged in brackish water for 333 years until it was salvaged in 1961. Initially, the conservation effort was hailed as a triumph. The hull was sprayed with polyethylene glycol, or PEG, for 17 years. The logic was sound. The PEG would penetrate the wood cells, replacing the water and preventing the timber from shrinking and collapsing as it dried. And for a long time, this seemed sufficient. The wood felt firm, the dimensions held, and the museum opened to millions of visitors. However, in the early 2000s, a new and invisible threat emerged. Curators noticed that the timber was becoming brittle and, more alarmingly, developing white, acidic deposits on the surface. We now know that the PEG itself may be degrading, but the primary antagonist is something far more elemental. This brings us to the core chemical problem: sulfur. While the ship was underwater, it was embedded in a harbor bottom that was chemically aggressive. High levels of hydrogen sulfide were generated by decaying organic matter in the mud. We are talking about centuries of raw sewage and agricultural runoff dumped into the harbor, creating a feast for anaerobic bacteria. These bacteria produced sulfide, which penetrated deep into the oak beams, up to 6 centimeters deep in some places. Now, as long as the ship was underwater, this sulfur was chemically stable. It was dormant. But once the ship was raised and exposed to the oxygen in the museum air, a slow-motion catastrophe began. The sulfur began to oxidize. Complicating this is the issue of the iron bolts. The original ship was held together by over 5,000 iron bolts. These had completely rusted away while underwater, leaving iron ions saturated in the wood. These iron ions are now acting as a catalyst, speeding up the oxidation process. The ultimate result is the continuous production of sulfuric acid inside the timber. The scale of this contamination is staggering. Current estimates suggest the hull contains approximately 2 tons of elemental sulfur. If all of this were to convert to acid, the ship would effectively dissolve itself from the inside out. It is a ticking chemical time bomb. So, what are the solutions? The first attempt involved neutralizing the surface acid with ammonia compresses. While it raised the pH temporarily, it did not address the sulfur hidden deep within the core of the wood. It was a cosmetic fix, not a structural one, essentially just cleaning the skin while the bones decayed. It was merely cosmetic. The second, more aggressive approach currently being debated is the use of nanoparticles, specifically nanoparticles of calcium hydroxide or magnesium hydroxide. The theory is that these particles are suspended in alcohol and are small enough to penetrate the wood's cellular structure, just as the PEG did, and neutralize the acid at its source. However, there is a risk.
Introducing a high concentration of calcium could fundamentally alter the physical properties of the oak. It could make the wood hygroscopic, meaning it would absorb moisture from the air more aggressively. If the wood starts pulling in water during humid summers and releasing it in winter, the expansion and contraction could lead to warping, the very thing the original conservation tried to prevent. Furthermore, we must consider the mechanical stress. The ship is currently supporting its own weight, but the acid is slowly breaking down the cellulose fibers, the glue holding the wood cells together. We call this phenomenon creep, the slow, permanent deformation of the material under a constant load. Measurements show the hull is deforming by a few millimeters every year. To combat this, engineers have proposed building a new internal steel skeleton to take the load off the timber. The idea is to replace the existing support cradle with an internal structure that clamps the ship from the inside. But this presents an ethical dilemma in conservation. How much modern steel can you insert before the artifact loses its authenticity? Is it still a 17th century ship if it's 40% modern steel? Finally, while the chemists and engineers debate, the museum has focused on strict climate control. To slow the oxidation process, the temperature around the ship is kept strictly at 18.5 degrees Celsius, not 19, not 18, but 18.5, and the humidity is maintained at 53%. Even a fluctuation of 2% can accelerate the chemical decay or mechanical stress. So, as you can see, saving the Vasa is no longer about drying it out. It is a battle against basic chemistry.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you would now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.
Pencils down. Take a moment. Before we review the answers, let me ask you this. Did you find yourself struggling with the speed or the vocabulary in that test? If the answer is yes, I want you to know something. It's not your fault. The real problem is that most students are stuck in one of two traps. You're either stuck in normal classes, where everyone is forced to learn the exact same thing regardless of their level, or you're stuck in self-prep hell, scrambling across Google, searching for random PDFs, and wasting time on boring rules you already know. It's chaotic, it's lonely, and frankly, it doesn't work. That's why we created the WordCraft one-on-one coaching program. It's a complete solution to your IELTS challenges. Here's how we change the game. First, we don't guess, we gauge. We assess your current level and build a custom roadmap just for you. We reinforce what you already know and fix your specific weaknesses. Second, we train you beyond a standard test prep. Forget old, recycled books. We use exclusive content developed by our IELTS experts designed to build strong foundational skills and systematically guide you toward advanced mastery, so the real IELTS exam feels easy. Third, you get an all-in-one ecosystem. No more searching and scrambling. You get access to our dedicated web app with every video, PDF, and test you'll ever need. But the biggest difference? the support. At WordCraft, you'll always find a coach who actually understands you. We match you with trainers who fit your vibe and your schedule. You get live corrections, up to 30 depending on your plan. We sit with you, fix your writing, and refine your speaking in real time. And you're never alone in your learning journey. You become part of our active forums and community, where peers keep you motivated and focused. We even make learning fun. As you improve, you earn Aura points, which you can redeem for free books, courses, and one-on-one coaching. We offer 4 powerful programs: Express, Plus, Advantage, and Ultimate, each designed to help you reach your target score. But listen closely, because these are premium one-on-one sessions with top-tier experts. Availability is extremely limited, and spots fill fast. Check the description below for a full breakdown of each plan and choose the program that fits you best. And here's the exciting part. The first 20 students unlock an exclusive 20% discount on every program. Just use the code LAUNCH20 at checkout. So if you're serious about achieving your target score, now is the time to secure your slot. With that in mind, let's check the answers.